One last example with vertical shifts and reflections. Notice this time I have it written y equals d. I have it minus a cosine bx. So my amplitude is the absolute value of -3. So it's 3, absolute value. So there's my amplitude. My period is always 2 pi over that number. So period 2 pi over 4 pi over 2. So I'll mark my period out. Pi over 2 in half would be pi over 4. Half again would be pi over 8. If I count it, 1 pi over 8, 2 pi over 8. Here's 3 pi over 8. That's just period and amplitude I have marked out. I do need to note that it's a -a, so this guy reflects. So instead of starting up here, I'm going to start at -3. I'll put my marks in for those points. So there's the upside down cosine curve with just period and amplitude. This time D is +2. So all those points got to move up 2 units. So my midline also moves up 2. So here's the new midline. Okay, there's my midline at y equals 2, or D. So moving up 2 units, 1, 2. So that's now at -1. Up 2 units, 1, 2, right on the midline. Up 2 units, so 4, 5. Up 2 units on the midline. Up 2 units here at its minimum. So here's the graph, roughly sketched as that cosine curve. Real quick, remember the absolute value of A is the amplitude. If A is negative, then a reflection. Okay, so 2 things here. Okay. Period or cycle is always 2 pi over b. Midline is always y equals d, which is the vertical shift. Okay, if positive, then up, and if negative, then down. Graphing cosine. Graphing sine is all of this here will stay exactly the same. We just change where we start with our point. Instead of starting at its max or its min, sine is going to start on its midline. We will talk about that in our next videos.